This is a house of peace. You know, I wrote this series, The 10 New Commandments for a World That Works for Everyone, just for me. Just for me. Because I'm a human being that's struggling to get to deeper and greater levels of consciousness. And I think that you are too, or you wouldn't be in this room. So that the 10 new commandments for a world that works for everyone, for me, also has to include animals as everyone. So hence today's title, Thou Shalt Love Animals as Thyself. Animals are a part of the wisdom of the earth. As much as anything else I've talked about, I touched on the wisdom of the intelligence of Earth systems, the deep oceans that serve the world to keep the oceans at the right temperature. And I talked about the winds that pick up sand in the Sahara to fertilize the Amazon forest. And I've talked about the beauty of the earth taking seed and growing it into plants. And I'll tell you, this is the hardest one. Part of me was praying for snow this morning, so I wouldn't have to give this talk. I wasn't going to tell you that, but that's the truth. Because it's a dilemma for me. If I am to love animals as myself, then how do I reconcile the treatment of animals on the planet and the fact that I eat them? Because I'm not a vegetarian. I believe, and I know that beliefs create our reality, but I do believe that my body needs animal protein. So I come to you with that beginning. And I promise I won't spoil your Sunday dinner. I've always loved animals. Anybody else here love animals? Yeah, most hands go up. You know, I've kept cats and dogs and chipmunks and bats and whatever else I could bring home. I buried the dead ones in my backyard and wept over them when they died. I've met face to face with a bull moose in the forest, and I've had a black bear sneak up behind me and scare the hell out of me, and heard the snarl of a mountain lion in the middle of the night. You know, all of these things that leave me with a sense of the sacred about animals, that there is something deeply sacred about them, and that I need to explore what that is, so that I can recapture that sense that I get with the wilderness, and that is of grace. There's a sense of grace with every time that I've met with an animal in the wild. There's a sense of grace when I meet with my cats. There's a sense of grace that comes with communing with the animal life on this planet. So I remember once sitting by a lake at a high mountain lake with my feet in the water after a long hike up the mountain. And after a minute or two, this little fish swims up to my foot and starts nibbling on my toe. And I'm watching all of this with great interest. He's obviously really curious, kind of mouthing around my big toe like this. And then there came a time when he looked up and we made eye contact, and something shifted. The world shifted, and this little fish froze. And I could almost watch his thought process. I mean, if fish have thought processes, I assume they do, but it was like, holy crap. And then zoomed away. There was a moment of recognition when that fish realized whose toe it was nibbling on. This giant thing that was to be feared. And you know, that encounter changed my life around the wild. I recognize that there's so much more there than I ever dreamed. I view the world differently than I ever did before. So as I was doing my research for this talk, I looked up how many species of animals there are on this earth. And science estimate that there are 8.7 million species on planet Earth, give or take 1.3 million. This is how specific we are with, we can't count them. There are so many and they're changing so fast. And then along in that studying too, I read that some scientists call this the 6th great extinction. The last one being the dinosaur extinction, when they surmised that an asteroid hit the planet. So one scientist said this time human beings are the culprits. We are the asteroid. Now that doesn't set very well with me. I don't feel like an asteroid. I don't feel that big or powerful or strong. But what I do know is that collectively, we as a species are seriously impacting the planet and the animal life on it. We are. We're coming out of an age of industrialization when the burning of fossil fuels was everything. It powered everything, and it still does. But that's changing. That's ending. That time is nearly over. But what we've done with the spewing of all of that stuff from the burning of fossil fuels is that we've changed the planet. We've changed the life of everything on the planet. And so in my struggle for 10 commandments that will create a world that works for everyone, one of the things about animals is that I do my very best to minimalize my carbon footprint. I put together errands so I don't have to drive too much. I walk to the grocery store when I can. All kinds of things that I am beginning to be aware of on a daily basis, that I can model a human being doing the very best she can. Not always. Probably not even half the time, but I'm active about it. I'm thinking about it. I think about my actions. I recycle as much as I can. I look at packaging to choose the least offensive packaging, that which is going to produce the least amount of garbage, and so on and so on. I try to buy local food so that my food doesn't have to be trucked from or flown from. All of those are ways to minimize what they call our carbon footprint. And I can't argue with that scientist. If I'm a part of the asteroid, what more can I do to stop the damage and help rehabilitate the Earth? So as I've been looking at and studying for and putting together these 10 commandments, the thing that comes back to me over and over and over again is to stop worrying about it. To hold this planet sacred, to remember myself and all living things as sacred, and that there is the being as much as or more than the doing, the being, the best human being that I can be. And finding happiness at the same time. Now, have we got a challenge here in front of us? Knowing all that we know, facing all that we face, because in this philosophy, we don't turn away from anything. We look at the fact and say, I see you. And what I know is a deeper truth, that there is a deeper kind of cohesive nature to the world that I focus on and I call forth in all things around me. That's my job. And I'm a part of a system. I'm a part of a world system. I must learn the Earth's ways so that I can keep her safer. I couldn't help thinking of this passage from the Bible, from the 8th Psalm, that I think explains a lot. And yet I think it's been misunderstood down through the ages for thousands of years. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them, human beings that you care for them? You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over the works of your hands. You put everything under their feet, all flocks and herds and the animals of the wild, the birds in the sky and the fish in the sea, all that swim the paths of the seas. You know, it's true. It's true. We have something that sets us apart to some degree other than our opposable thumbs. I mean, we have a sense of an intelligence and curiosity that is really pretty unparalleled in the animal world. And yet I think what has happened to us is that passage has been misinterpreted, meaning that I have dominion over everything as a human being. And what that has caused us to do in the animal world is heinous. It is heinous. So what I started looking at is how to get more towards the spirit of what that means. That we are gifted and blessed with this ability to hold dominion. And yet this earth is put in our keeping, is put in our safeguarding. How do we do that? How do we do that the best that we can? Well, we know too that there is this morphogenic field that is written about, and one of the stories, one of the mythologies around it is the 100th monkey story, where if a certain level of monkeys learn to wash their food, that everywhere these island monkeys learn to wash their food. And there is something to that. That story it has not been scientifically proven that I know of. But what I do know is that when a certain level of consciousness happens in the race consciousness, changes happen. So my job is to be the best consciousness that I can be. And that means being fearless enough to look at everything and make choices, make different choices, choices that will add to and not take away from this beautiful planet. So, do you know what some of the smartest animals are in the world? Well, pigs can understand the concept of a mirror. That's a big deal. There aren't too many animals that understand that what they're looking at is a mirror image. A pig can do that. Crows. Did you hear that? Why would a pig want to look in a mirror? This is Mac. Thank you, Mac. I appreciate that. Anyway, crows can make tools out of paper clips so that they can spear food out of a jar. That's a big deal. That's smart. Squid are amazingly intelligent animals, and they also use tools for hunting. Chimpanzees and other apes can learn sign language and can communicate in our language with us. There's a wonderful series from National Geographic, little shorts on animal intelligence. And there are some really incredible animals. Sea lions can distinguish between numbers and letters without ever having been taught. Parrots can tell you how many corners there are on an object and speak English. I mean, the world of animal intelligence is opening up to us like never before because we're so curious about them. And for so long we've held them as something less than. I remember in my growing up, I heard the term dumb animal a lot. Animals were, they were held to be meat, and not having the gift of intelligence. And what we're learning is that's just not true. That's not true. That animals have an incredible wisdom. So where I grew up in a small town in Utah, there were only 2 seasons. One was hunting season and one was not hunting season. And as I said, animals were dumb. We viewed them as being non-intelligent. I remember once my brother talked my dad into going out to taking him hunting, and Dad reluctantly went, and my brother shot and killed a deer, and it made him so sick that he couldn't eat it, and he never went hunting again. That for him, he just could not bring himself to kill. And that's, I think, the problem that I have is meat as food and animals as meat. So reconciling that has been quite a challenge for me. How do I do it? Well, it's a struggle. I haven't gotten there yet. My sister is a vegan. For this very reason, I am not there, nor do I intend to be. So I must learn how to live with a diet and reconcile myself to some of the needs of my body and still hold myself in high esteem and know that what I'm doing is not harmful, not heinous, not heinous. It's a journey. It's a journey. And my purpose, of course, is not to persuade anyone to not eat meat. But what I am hoping to persuade you to do is watch where your food comes from. I talked last week about reading labels and what you can find when you read labels. And, the fact is that our food producers don't really have your interest and my interest at heart. They are interested in the food machine that we've created. So if you are consciously aware of, like our indigenous populations are aware of, the gratitude that one can feel for an animal giving its life for my food. If I can do that, and if I can know that this animal was treated humanely, because that's where it hurts for me. That's where it hurts, is knowing that in our food production, humanity and humane treatment is not the norm. I must search it out. I must look for humane treatment. Or I'm going to ingest what has been done inhumanely to an animal. Is that good for my body? I don't think so. So I mentioned last week a movie called Fresh, F-R-E-S-H, that will give you a window, not too big of a window, into what the treatment of animals are. Just enough that you might convince yourself to make sure that you're eating humanely treated meat. And it also talks about the way that sustainable farming is going to do that, to ensure that, so that we're all part of the food chain, and yet, that's a natural system in our world. It's a normal, natural system in our world. The food chain exists. If we are participating consciously and with gratitude, it changes everything. It changes the way animals are treated. It changes the way people are treated, because it's people who have to do this treatment of animals. And it only sickens our society when they're forced to do things that are inhumane. Hard talk for me. Love yourself. Love animals as yourself. And that always brings up for me the idea of self-love. We have in our world an idea of, our entertainment is often about violence against one another. The way that we deal with people in traffic is often about this and violence and anger. So I think that learning to love ourselves is as big a challenge as it ever was. And it's got to be first. It's got to be first. This is a beautiful, beautiful picture, and that puppy can teach us a little bit more about love. But the ongoing challenge for each of us, I think, is to love ourselves so that we then can love everything on the earth. And giving yourself good, wholesome food is a great start to loving yourself a little bit more. So I'm going to close with a quote from Ted Andrews' book called Animal Speak. There are many myths of a magical time and place in which there were no boundaries between humans and animals. Humans were at peace with the animals and spoke their language. It reflected a time of mingling between divine and human. Wild and tame had no meaning. Animals and humans could speak together, sometimes humans learning the animal tongue, and sometimes animals learning the human tongue. When we learn to speak with the animals, to listen with animal ears, and to see through animal eyes, we experience the phenomena, the power, and the potential of the human essence. And it is then that the animals are no longer our subordinates. They become our teachers, our friends, and our companions. They show us the true majesty of life itself. They restore our forgotten childlike wonder at the world, and they reawaken our lost belief in magic, dreams, and possibilities. And so from that place of awakened potential of our own human existence, let's go into prayer, calling forth that divine essence that we call God, because we don't have a specific word for that which will not be specified. God is all things, everywhere. God is the presence of love and life. God is abundance and joy and beauty and harmony and order, all of those things. God is that uniting principle behind everything, that which creates the oneness. Therefore, God is all there is. There cannot be God and anything other. And if that is the truth, then I am a part of it. Each person is a part of it. Each animal is a part of it. Each insect is a part of it. And that we are a whole system, the body of God. That which is created is the universe. Specifically now the planet Earth. So we live within this body of God, this garden paradise. And we are just a little lower than the angels, given the power of working with God co-creatively. So I align myself with that power right now, knowing that I am the place where the power of God shows up. I am the place where the love of God is made manifest, where the joy and life of God prevails. And I know that's true for every single person everywhere, for every creature everywhere is a center for the life of God. Every plant is a center for the life of God. And so in looking at this in a whole way, I claim the glory of God radiates from me and from everything else on this planet. That everywhere I look, I see God. I experience God. I am living God. And in that knowing, I rededicate my heart to living in this system, of being a part of this co-creative system, and of being the best creature I can possibly be. By allowing more love, more life, more joy to be channeled through me as me. And in that, I claim that I harm no one. That the pain that I inflict upon the world is the very least that I can. That my feet trod gently on this planet. and that my decisions are made from wisdom and holistic thinking. And I'm blessed. I know I'm blessed. I know that everyone here is blessed. We're blessed with the intelligence and life and love of the divine. And it is enough for us to move forward and live forward in a re-engaged way. Life eternal, life everlasting, love and goodness everywhere present. And I'm so grateful for this. I'm so grateful for this.